What's the next level version of you? I like to think about it as the universe is a mirror, and what we put out is what we're getting back. If all day you're thinking about lack and scarcity, all the things that you don't have, that's exactly how we're attracting more of what we don't have. So the secret to living abundantly and to having the mindset of what you want is to actually think as if you already have it. Our minds don't know the difference between reality and imagination. When the baseball player's brain activity is monitored while they're actually going through all of that versus when they're visualizing all of what I shared, it's the same brain activity.
Not feeling safe holding money. What are the typical reasons for women not feeling safe?
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch. My co-host, as always,
Sophia Bosch.
Sophie, and I'm excited today. We have a very special guest. She is a former hedge fund CFO on Wall Street, an international speaker, a venture capital investor. She's also the founder and CEO of a company called Watch Her Prosper. And basically, she offers financial mentorship. She offers bookkeeping, tax readiness, prosperity mindset to her clients. And a lot of her clients that she tries to service are primarily women, basically women business owners. So I'm super excited to have her here, introduce her to you and you to her. Ruchi Pinniger, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm great, and I'm so happy to be here with both of you and your incredible audience as well.
Thank you very much for being here. So perhaps, Sophia, you get us, kick-started, because it's not every single day that we have, a CFO of a former hedge fund be here with us on the show. So very excited and honored to have you here.
Okay, so obviously very accomplished. I am very grateful to have the chance to meet you. Um, how did you get to where you are today? Like, did it all start with your parents? Like, what wealth lessons did you learn from your parents growing up that you saw translated really well into your professional life?
So I'm going to share a story about me as a young girl. So I grew up here as an immigrant, with immigrant parents. And ultimately, I had a single mom raising me because we lost our dad early. And what I remember is when I was, a tween/teen, all of my friends wearing these designer jeans, my classmates, and I thought, oh, well, like that thing is what's making them happy. I equated the designer things that they wore with meaning they have a great life, a happy life. And I went on to my career on Wall Street and also kind of felt like, oh, I finally made it. I've, got my success. I've got my finances, to pay for that thing now, which I didn't have as a young girl. And at the time, it was a Prada bag. And I remember buying that Prada bag and thinking, oh, I finally made it. Bought the Prada bag, and guess what? Nothing changed. I had a beautiful bag on my shoulder, but my life was the same. And of course, yes, I felt that excitement, the dopamine hit you get when you buy something, but nothing changed. And that's one of the key things in terms of the work that I do is prosperity comes from the inside. It's an inside job. And it was a big lesson for me to realize that, it's not just about those things. There's so much more to prosperity and feeling like you're living a wealthy life than the things that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is the old version of success as opposed to the new version?
Well, the old version, many of us equate prosperity and wealth to financial success, to money. But living a wealthy life is so much more. And actually, through the work I've done with thousands of women, and this is for myself as well, I live by this. I talk a lot about my 3 pillars of redefining prosperity framework. And those 3 pillars, when you really live by them and embody them, that's how you live your most prosperous life. It's well-being, it's spirituality, and healthy relationships with people and with money. So even just thinking about the well-being side, I'm talking about the things that really bring you joy. Like what lights you up? And now we are so focused on the go, go, go. What's everyone else doing? And I want people to really, all of you at any age, at Sophia's age, at Michelle's age, all of us, to really think about what are the things that light us up, what makes us feel really good. I know when we get really busy with our school, with our activities, with our work, we tend to just forget about ourselves. So I love, for example, I'm here in New York City. I love my long strolls in Central Park. I also love getting massages just on a regular basis. I don't feel like I have to wait until I'm on vacation at a resort to get a massage. So for all of you out there, just really to think about what are the things that you've just, left behind because of your busyness, and how can you start to really incorporate those into your life? The
Yeah.
second thing is that,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
What about you? Do both of you,
I,
as we talk about that?
we well, no, we completely, like, we jive with that. When we talk about becoming wealthy, we
Well, there
define wealth.
well, there's obviously two parts. There's the first
Yeah.
part, which is becoming, which is a constant evolution of yourself through self growth, personal development, things like that. So you're always in the process of becoming. And then wealthy, we define, yes, monetarily. However, there's other aspects, like you were saying, your relationships with the people around your relationship with God, like your faith, your health as your first wealth, because you can't cultivate any of the other wealths without good health. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's basically, a much more holistic approach than what normally typically, I grew up with, or similarly to you, you grew up with thinking was wealth. And once you get to a certain point, you realize, okay, this is not the whole pictures. It's not the whole story, because it feels empty. There's got to be more, And at some
I
point, wealth also translates also in contribution and in being of service to others, and lifting others up as well along with you, which is exactly what you're doing. I was very, because I was doing a little research on you, and so I was very curious about your wheel of prosperity. I know that you use it to help someone kind of like get back into alignment. Am I right? Tell us a little bit about it. What is it, and what are some of the components?
Yeah, so that's something I use in my workshops when I run my Redefining Prosperity workshops. And we sort of really look at these three pillars. And I definitely still want to talk about those last two. And what we do is we really rate, we think about where we are right now in all of those areas, and we rate ourselves. And then we start to think about, well, how do we go? Let's say if you're rating yourself from a 1 to a 10, and with 10 being the highest and just the most fulfilled in that area, and you rate yourself a 4, then I really want people to start to think, and you all can do that as you're listening too, as we're talking about these pillars, right? So the well-being, where do you feel you're living in terms of a 1 to a 10? And then start to think about if you were just to go 2 ticks higher, right? Just as Sophia said, we're always becoming. So we're not going to go overnight from a 4 to a 10, right? If you just want to go from a 4 to a 6, what does that look like for you? What are the actions that you need to take? What's the support that you need? And how do you stay accountable to do those things? So that's what that wheel is really used for. And shall we dig into the other two players?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So let's talk about spirituality. And Sophia, you spoke about God. I believe in God myself. I also talk a lot about universe. I talk about source. Some people, those may not connect for some people. So even just think about your higher self, like who you're becoming, right? What's the next level version of you? So I like to think about it as the universe is a mirror, and what we put out is what we're getting back. So if all day you're thinking about lack and scarcity, all the things that you don't have, that's exactly how we're attracting more of what we don't have. So the secret to living abundantly and to having the mindset of what you want is to actually think as if you already have it, right? Like really, like if you want abundance, think how an abundant person would think. Feel what it's like in your body to be so abundant, to know that there's always money available, that it's always flowing to you, that there's always enough to pay the bills, whatever it is, if it's money, if it's time, right? If it's resources. So I love to just share with people this fact and then help you think about how can you reframe those negative thoughts. First of all, there is an average of 60,000 thoughts per day that we as humans have. And as women, 80% of them are negative. So even just imagining what would it be like if we were to reframe our thoughts and to change it so that 80% of our thoughts were positive. So I want to share also another one of my tools, one of my trademark tools, which is my RIR method, and it's recognize, interrupt, reframe. So really start to pay attention to your thoughts, recognize when you're having a negative, disempowering thought, like, oh, there's never enough friends, there's never enough money, let's say in this case, because we're talking about wealth maybe in the traditional sense, and interrupt it and then reframe it with something more prosperous. I'm so abundant. I'm
What
so
are some
grateful. Mm.
what are some examples
Yeah,
to interrupt the pattern? Because sometimes you can find yourself in such a negative downward spiral that
absolutely.
you're all consumed, you're one with it. So how do you, interrupt the pattern or that state of being to get yourself in a different flow?
I love that. So I would say close your eyes, take a deep breath, put your hands on your heart. And when I say take a deep breath, there's like the obvious just breathe in and out. There's multiple kinds of breathing you can do to get yourself grounded is really what I'm saying. So
Mhm,
there's like
mhm.
the what people call the box breathing, right? That's like breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out, exhale for 4, hold for 4. So you can do that, 3 or 4 rounds of that, and just close your eyes while you do that, and
You
put your hand on your heart.
This one might
Love
need it right
yourself.
now. She's in the middle of final exam, so
Girl, I got you, girl. I know. I know I think you're 18, right, Sophia?
Yeah.
Yeah, my son's 17, so I get it. It's that week. So yeah, anytime you feel that anxiety, anytime you're feeling like, do I know this? Do I have enough time to get ready? That's a pattern. And when you put that out there, you're sort of creating that reality. So start to really think about what does it feel like to be so ready for those exams? What does it feel like to have all the questions there that you already know the answer to let you answer with ease. And actually like so the whole thing with the RIR method is the reframe in the words, but the biggest thing is the feeling. How does it feel to know that in this case, let's say with the finals, right? With the exams, like that you have all the information that you need. Like what happens in your body when you feel that way?
because you know how it feels because you've been in that in that situation before. You have evidence of how that feels in the body, so it's kind of like recalling it and almost like time piercing into the future and seeing yourself there feeling it. Yeah,
The
am I?
the visual is that's exactly right. The visualization's key. So our minds don't know the difference between reality and imaginations. Like there are actually studies done with athletes, with musicians, where, for example, a baseball player on home plate, running the bases, feeling the wind on their arms, having the goosebumps, hearing the roar of the crowd, right? All the senses running those bases and then sliding onto home plate with that roar of the crowd, excited, winning the game. So when the baseball player's brain activity is monitored while they're actually going through all of that versus when they're visualizing all of what I shared, it's the same brain activity. So the visualization is getting your mind comfortable and sort of creating that reality for yourself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Now, I want to shift gears a little bit because I know that you, especially right now, that with the RIR method, um, you know, I remember a time in my life where I was not aware, but there were a few things or emotions, and when I realized how low on on the scale of vibration they sat, I was like blown away. But in general, what role do you think amongst women, because you've worked with, many women business owners, does shame and guilt play in building wealth?
Girl, when we have shame and wealth, what happens? We hide, right? So thinking about that's a I love that sort of angle of it because when you really think about the thought of the shame and the emotion, right? Like I feel so ashamed that I haven't looked at my numbers, that I don't know what's happening. Then you go into the feeling of what anxiety, right? Like there's probably a whole bunch of feelings that would come up for you. And then when you go into that feeling, what happens? What are you doing? You're probably just putting your head in the sand. You keep going, you're not moving forward. And then you're creating that same result that you don't want of, I still don't know the numbers. I don't know how to do this. So, so what I love to do and what we do at Watch Her Prosper is really creating a safe, judgment-free zone for our clients. This is no place for you to judge yourself, and you certainly aren't going to get judgment from us. This is a place of being comforted and really like allowing yourself to be open to learning what maybe you've not learned and having a guide there for you. So ultimately, um, if we're doing the RIR, right, and just being like the idea of like, I'm so embarrassed, I had never done this. Is it too late for me? I hear these things all the time, and really just interrupting that, breathing, pausing, hand on heart, let go of the judgment. And how about like, I'm ready to trust myself. Every day I can trust myself more and more with my numbers and my learning. Just allow yourself. Everything goes back to self-trust.
hmm so then basically when you work with, with a client, and I don't know if this is the case, but do they bring their financials and you're looking objectively at, what happened, during that particular snapshot of time that that financial is representing in their business, and you're not just looking at the objectivity of the numbers, but you're also bringing this component to your sessions. Yeah.
Absolutely, the mindset piece and the way of life piece, right? It's not just about the numbers, it's about how are you living and what is it? Like we actually help our clients to figure out what is their prosperous life number? What do they need to be making to live their most prosperous life? So first off, we there's multiple ways we work with people. So business owners, we work with them to be there more like a financial guide for them. So we meet with them on a regular basis, help talk through their numbers, guide them on business decisions that they're making, talk them through with them, do cash flow projections. We do the bookkeeping for them and help them get ready for tax time. So there's that model. But then I also personally have some, mentorship that I do that's really customized. So it could be that we're working on a combination of mindset as well as the actual numbers and habits. So it's different for all. The biggest thing that's really eye-opening though, and this isn't just with our clients, I have something that everyone listening could also take a look at that could really help them is what's the number I need to make to live my most prosperous life? To really like sit back and envision what does that life look like for me? And then, we sort of drop numbers in. We backtrack as to if I know that I want to save X for this, and I know that I want to pay this debt down that I have in a certain number of months. And I know I need to, as a business owner, save for taxes, have my business expenses accounted for, really looking at the business and the personal, and then what do I need to make in my business to be able to do all of those things?
Hmm Makes sense. And I mean, I don't think I have ever encountered, um, tax strategist, CFO slash CFO slash, prosperity mindset. I mean, this is really breaking, new ground. You're the very first person that I ever interviewed that incorporates all three of these things. I mean, are normally women receptive, or are they like, wait a minute, where have you been all my life? Or is this for real? Because I guess people could have both either reaction.
It could be both. I mean, that's one of the big things that really differentiates us is the fact that we're doing the actual numbers, but also working on your mindset and paying attention to what your thoughts are. Because what I found when I started Watch Her Prosper, we were really focused on more the practical, tactical, the other things that I talked
Yeah.
about, the bookkeeping and
Yeah.
the guidance, etc. But what we started to see is you can do all those things, but if your mindset is in the right place, if it's not in the right place, you're, based on whatever those beliefs you are, I'm not deserving of this money. I don't feel safe holding the money. And that's a whole nother thing we could talk about is the subconscious beliefs and how we operate. But what I would see is, you'd guide someone and they'd start to make all this money, but for whatever reason, or depending on their situation, they might just get it and spend it. They didn't feel safe holding money. So there's something to be done there. And then that's where we would start to dig in. Well, what's really happening here? And let's look at that. And then that would start to make the impact that we wanted.
What are some, I mean, in your experience now, in working with women, I mean, this knows not feeling safe holding money. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, how often you come across that, and what are the typical, reasons for women not feeling safe?
So a lot of it is just truly subconscious beliefs. What we are living video recorders from the time we're in the womb till we're around 7 or 8 years old. So we're watching everything. And so somebody, for example, whose parents were always fighting about money, they're gonna pick up that money's bad. Like they're maybe not gonna want to make a lot of money. They don't even realize it, but they're probably gonna see it in the patterns in their life because they may be struggling. I can tell you, for example, a story about a little girl named Mary. This is a real story, and of course, names have been changed to protect the innocent. So Mary was a young girl. She went to the mall with her parents. They were out shopping for a mattress. She went to the arcade to play some games. She gets there, she's enjoying herself. Her parents come to pick her up. They say, "All right, Mary, it's time to go." She looks down to get her purse, and it's there, but it's empty. So someone had taken everything out. And so that moment created a story for Mary, money's not safe with me. She carried that into her 40s, well into her 40s, many years of therapy, many money stories, undercharging for her services, not saving, not planning, ignoring her money. And that impacted everything she did. And it wasn't until she started to recognize that pattern, what's happening here, that she started to change it.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, wow.
Mm.
Yeah, it can have, what an incredible ripple effect as you kept on describing. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I can see how that happens,"
Yeah,
and it just keeps evolving, and it's being ever present, and it's a program that you're unconsciously operating by, and, not even, obviously not being aware of it.
that's right.
And definitely, I think it would prevent a person from reaching even certain levels of economic growth, because there's this tendency of almost like self-sabotage, because you don't feel safe holding that much.
That's right. And even that's like a
And the
deeper story.
pressure even that comes with it, the pressures that
Yeah.
come with holding more too.
Right. If you can't accept it almost, you don't trust yourself with it. Now, the other thing though, just because I know there's people here, there's, mothers and daughters like you listening, this is really important too. A lot of us grew up in households where we were told like it's not polite to ask about money or you don't need to know that. And we really, we're working in this generation to change that and to empower our children to talk about money. Because the thing right, because the thing is when we don't talk about money, that's also, if you think about it, that's an action. That's a choice you're making. So for those of you that are like parents and, want to raise your kids to be financially fit and aware, having those conversations, making it safe in your household for money to just be a normal topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, um, what what would you say? How can women build generational wealth, while managing, a demanding career, social life, relationships, staying healthy, having a connection, to source, like you mentioned, like how can we have it all? I mean, what do you think is the foundation for that to to come into fruition, to actually to make it happen while
Well,
having all of these different things tugging at you and pulling at you?
absolutely. Now, going back to the pillars is I think really the way, because the third pillar is about healthy relationships with people and with money. Now, people, right, spend time with people that lift you up, rise you up, right, celebrate you. You're not gossiping and complaining. So thinking about the people you're spending your time with, what are their money habits, because they can also kind of be contagious, right? And really, what's your relationship with money? What are your money rituals and habits? Are you looking at your money? Are you planning? Are you having conversations about your goals with your partner, your spouse, yourself, your financial people, right? So the planning is going to be a really key thing. If you don't know what your prosperous life number is, what how do you know what you're going for when you don't have a goal, right? I always say, like, the universe is there to support you. When you get the clarity you need and take the action, that's when it starts to align for you. So the clarity is, what's your prosperous life going to cost you? What do you need to make? And then how do we get you there? What are the steps?
Yeah. And I'm assuming that in coming up with this goal, do you you attribute like, okay, X percentage is going to be going into housing, X percentage into this, like, am I, or like kind of like a security plan? Like I think of um financial freedom usually like in three stages. Like, there's a security plan. Okay, this is the absolute minimum I need in order to, live this kind of lifestyle. Then this is kind of like my security plan, my comfort plan, and then my luxury plan. But or do you bring
I
through a different progression
Yeah,
to get
when
to
you
arrive at that number? What is that number,
I totally hear you, and what you just said made me feel scarce.
Okay.
I want people to feel abundant. First of all, I want to start with what are, like, just really looking at the facts. What are you bringing in? What are you spending? What else do you want to be doing with your money? Building wealth, paying off some old debt, saving for a home. If you're in business, maybe you want to hire someone. You want to also look at your current expenses. I want you to just really put it all out there to start.
Okay.
And then if you notice there's gaps, if you notice that, okay, so in order to live this life and have all these things, I need to make an extra $3,000 a month, whatever the number is, right? And now here's where the steps come in. Yes, of course, we can always go to the expenses. Are there easy things we can cut that don't change our life drastically, but kind of feel easeful and don't take away the joy? And then also, what else can we do to bring more money in? So those of you that are in business, are you charging hourly or are you value pricing? Like, charging hourly, you're trading time for dollars. Like, you're on vacation, you're not making money, but maybe there's a way to package your services so that, because you're so good at what you do, you're an expert, but there's such value in it. So your hourly maybe isn't really paying you for what the value is. So really looking at how you're pricing, are there new offerings that you can put out there? So that's where I like to build from a place in
Kind of like
abundance.
identifying the gaps of what are, I would say, overlooked crumbs of possible income opportunities
Yes.
to
Yes.
basically help you achieve that number.
Yes, it's just, again, coming from a place of abundance. What makes me feel really good? What are the services that I am already putting out that just, like, are light me up? And how can I expand on those? Is there a way to charge more for those? Or is there something that I love to do that maybe I did with a friend of mine that I know I could sell, and there would be some interest.
Package, absolutely.
Yeah,
And not just do it for free, but actually, yeah, be compensated for the value that you're creating for someone. Absolutely.
totally.
100.
And I'll share with you, when you're ready for your audience, I can share the way they can get that calculator so they can really start to
Yeah,
do what we just talked
absolutely.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please. We definitely want to hear about it.
Amazing. Okay, so if you go to yourprosperouslife.com, you will be able to download it right there. So you can actually go ahead and do the calculation yourself. In fact, there's two tabs. There's one if you're an executive working, making a paycheck where there's taxes already withheld. And there's another tab for entrepreneurs because it's a little bit more complex to plan because as an entrepreneur, we have our revenue, we have our business expenses, and of course now we have to save for taxes because they're not necessarily taken out of our paycheck depending on how we're paying ourselves. So we think about those pieces as an entrepreneur as well as all the goals in our personal life and align those.
Yeah, I like it. I like the goals rather than, the expenses, in our life, in our personal life. Yeah. Um, what are three pieces of advice that you would leave a woman starting out right now? Um,
I would tell her to allow herself to know that it's not too late. I would tell her
okay.
to trust herself and please just let go of the judgment. And I would tell her to figure out what her prosperous life is going to cost her. Figure out the number, get the clarity, and that's how you'll be able to start to take action.
I love that. I love that it's not too late because, as a mom of a of a senior in high school leaving, I'm like, oh, okay, um, I'm going to be an empty nester in, I don't know, 8 months time frame. And sometimes I think about, well, what am I gonna do? I always wanted to do that, but I don't know. I'm like, I'm close to 50. Is it too late?
It's not too late. In fact, I would recommend you don't have to wait. Yeah, and you don't have to wait 8 months. Start today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions that you might have, Sophia? I know that you at the beginning before you were like
Oh yes, I was just a little curious. You were the CFO for a hedge fund on Wall Street. How much did you manage?
Well, I didn't manage it, right? So I was the one
Okay.
doing the reporting. The portfolio manager is the
Right.
one managing. But yeah, there were billions of dollars. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And in different forms, in different forms. We had
I-
a whole bunch of funds that we were starting and launching. Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, any last questions? Well, thank you so very much, Ruchi. I loved at the beginning that you, or before we started, that you said Ruchi rhymes with Gucci, because I feel like this was such a exquisite, first class, luxurious feeling or conversation into abundance and into creating, number goals with a much more expansive quality to them. And I am very grateful for you being here. And I thank you for your time today.